Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the IBC and Saddleback Student Success Summit. I thank you all for being here. I have the pleasure this morning of introducing our keynote speaker, Diane Rodriguez, and she is from the RP group. She's a senior researcher at the RP group. She's also a professor at Cal Lutheran. Give it up for Diane.
Thank you so much. So I'm a senior researcher with the Research and Planning Group for California Community Colleges, and I'm going to give you lots of information today, including our website, which has all of these materials loaded online, so you can download any of this at your leisure. I also am a former employee of Santa Barbara City College, so I have spent a lot of time in the California Community College system. This project is really near and dear to my heart, and I really enjoy working with the RP group because it helps me keep in touch with community college students who I don't get to see on a daily basis like you anymore. So with all that, we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to talk today about Student Support Redefined. How many of you have heard of this particular project launched by the RP group? Okay, so we have some familiarity in the audience with this research that we conducted for 3 years, and we'll talk a little bit about it today. And we were fortunate in that Irvine Valley College was an institutional participant in this research. So as we talk about it, you can actually put it in the context of your own students. So these are the voices of your students coming through to kind of tell the state how they feel about being a student in the California Community College system. Okay, so today's agenda is to discuss Student Support Redefined and what we have found and what this all means in your day-to-day practices and here on your campuses at Saddleback and IBC, and then how you can employ this research in your own work with California Community College students. So we're hoping that you will walk away with an understanding of our 6 factors for student success, and we're going to talk about them extensively today. And that's really the nexus of the research. We're also hoping that you hear what students say is the most important to their academic achievement, and then how to use this research to identify how it can further advance student success. So really, one of the things that we like to do with these kinds of conversations is talk about what existing practices are happening on your own college campuses that you can leverage and really maximize for student success. Okay, so if we could take about 2 minutes, and I know we have until 9 o'clock, so we're going to make this a speedy presentation, but if we can take about 2 minutes, and if you could all think about 2 reflection questions. So thinking back, what would you say was most important to your success as a college student? That's number 1. And number 2, what do you think is most important to community college students to their success today? So what was important for you, and what do you think is important today? If maybe with a neighbor, if you could take about 2 minutes and do that, that would be fantastic. Anyone give me an example of number 1? What was important to your success as a college student? Yes.
My parents would not let me drop out ever.
That was important to your success, yes. Your parents did not let you drop out. Okay, even when you may have wanted to? Or?
It was just not even allowed to be thought.
Gotcha. Fantastic.
Same thing, my parents wouldn't give up on me.
So your parents, okay. Yes.
Faculty mentors.
Faculty mentors were important to your student success.
My self-directness of getting a plan together.
Getting a plan, okay, fantastic. And doing that on your own.
On my own.
Yes, okay. Yes.
Seeing a counselor very early and then mapping out courses that would transfer.
Okay, so as a transfer student, seeing a counselor pretty quickly.
And then taking the courses that would track me differently.
Getting a plan and getting on track. Okay.
Immediately.
Okay.
I
took a course at Ohio State on how to study, and it was very valuable. It
Study
really
skills,
brought my
okay.
grades up from a C to A.
Right,
You know, so it was
right, because you
incredible.
were given the tools to understand how to
How to
study.
study, how to
effectively.
navigate through the semester of the course. and
Right,
whatever.
right, successfully navigate,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Financial aid.
Financial aid, financial aid. That would probably most of us in this room would say financial aid, right? Yes.
I think what's really important too is knowing that your faculty value your voice and that you matter.
So I want to know if all of you read the report, because all of this is
We didn't need the report.
Okay, and last one, yes.
Student engagement, being involved.
Being involved. Okay, so what kinds of activities or
Student government was my case.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so another show of hands. What do you think is most important for community college success today for your college students in your classrooms and on your campuses?
Focus.
Focus. Okay, in what way?
Focus usually on major.
Focus.
Direction.
Getting into a major and finding direction, like a home in that major. Okay, excellent, excellent. Yes.
Maybe a reality check.
Oh, a reality check. Yes, I like that one. Don't we all? Yeah.
Both hard and soft skills.
Soft
Like,
skills.
Yeah, like problem solving, critical thinking, working the team. And also
Absolutely.
having the
Absolutely.
life skills.
Fantastic. Okay, yes. in the back.
Access to counselors.
Access to counselors.
A sense of engagement and a sense of being encouraged and welcomed. I think the classroom is critical to the success of students.
Right, okay. Fantastic. Okay. Any final ideas? Yes. A plan, yes, and one more.
Connection with your faculty, connection with the community.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Okay. Okay, so thank you. We like to do that exercise because sometimes what we required as success as college students is very different from what students require today. And so it's, you know, obviously they do align often, but sometimes there are some vast differences, and it's important to think about what our students are going through right now compared to what we went through when we were in undergrad or graduate school. You know, it can look very different. Okay, so getting into the meat of the project. So the primary research question for this project was, in an environment of extreme scarcity, which student support activities can be delivered inside and outside of the classroom to improve success for all students, paying special attention to African American and Latino learners? So really this question, when you kind of dissect it and get down to the nitty gritty, a lot of it is about, in our economic, current economic condition, how can we leverage resources on our campuses to serve all students? And how can we really understand the complexity of some of our underrepresented minority students who might have more complex issues than other students? So I'm going to briefly skim over the research methodology because I'm sure the findings are what's really important to this particular group, to all of us really. The findings are so important to our work in the California community college system. So this, our research methodology can be, it was a mixed method study that consisted of telephone surveys and focus group interviews. We also drafted an extensive literature review. All of this is on the RP Group website, so you can go to the website to download any of these documents. The full report is really extensive and gives you lots of ideas and tips for how to apply our findings in your own daily practice. But we'll talk a little bit about that today. Again, IVC was a participant in this study, an institutional participant, so we really thank you for that. A little bit about the project too. So these are our participating colleges. We had 13 of them. In year one, we engaged student interviewees. So this is when we made our rounds across the state of California to talk to students in focus group interviews and to conduct our telephone survey. In year two, we engaged practitioners to find out what was their feedback on the findings that we received in year one from the students. Like, how did the practitioners feel about what the students said in year one? And then in year 3, really year 3 has been about dissemination and getting the tools out vastly across the state of California to try to help practitioners understand what students have told us, essentially. All right, so one more slide on the methodology. We engaged almost 900 students, so this is pretty remarkable. The telephone surveys were 20-minute survey interviews with students. As you know, it is so difficult to get any student, community college or otherwise, to talk to you for 20 minutes. So we had 20-minute phone interviews with these students, and we had almost 800 of them. Then we held focus groups, and in those focus groups, we were able to meet with about 100 students. These focus groups were 1 hour. They were 1 to 2 hour long focus group sessions on the various campuses, and they were remarkable. They were so poignant, moving, very touching, very realistic, and I can't say enough about how the research made me look at my own patterns of behavior and how I engage with students, and to think more deeply about how I could affect change in my, very small sphere of the world. So the students are so incredibly insightful, which is what I love about California community college students. All right, so what have we found? This is the good stuff right here. So we organized our findings and in a unique way. And one of the ways that we've done this is we have sort of packaged this, the 6 factors. And the 6 factors here, directed, focused, nurtured, engaged, connected, and valued. I'm going to discuss every one of them, but I'm going to discuss it in the context of what the students said. So you can see how it plays out, how it manifests on a California community college campus. Because we can talk about directed all day long, right? Oh, let's get students to be more focused and directed. Let's get them on a path. But what really does that mean? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. The factors, as I present them, they're in ranking order by the students themselves. So students told us how they prioritize the factors, and that's how they are presented. So after, again, almost 900 conversations, right? Mini conversations, whether they were micro interviews or macro in a focus group, 900 sessions, we identified, we ranked the factors in order of what students told us was most important to them, to their success in college. All right.
Were the factors derived from the interviews, or you had these factors and then that was what interviewed consistently?
It's a combination of both, because in the literature, these factors emerge. And so what we did was we framed our questions, our interview questions, around these factors to say, is this really how it plays out in the college system? So it was both. The factors influenced our questions, and the findings influenced our understanding of the factors and how they relate to one another. Okay, so directed. So the definition of directed is I have a goal and I know how to achieve it. And again, all of this is on the RP Group website, so you can certainly take notes, but you don't have to. Yeah, it's like I'm in class, right? Which I say to my students a lot. So let's talk about directed for a minute. So I have a goal and I know how to achieve it. So this particular quote came from a student in a focus group session. And what's interesting about this quote is, first of all, the student, and let me move out of the way so you can all read it for 10 seconds or so. So what's interesting about this is that we don't recognize how powerful we are as practitioners. This is a very simple question that the professor asked the student, right? What are you here for? What are you doing? What are you doing? Even questions like, how are you? students identified in our focus group sessions and in our telephone surveys as so powerful and meaningful to their existence in college. So this particular question was cited as something that helped as a catalyst for moving this student forward, right? This student, who knows when this professor asked this question? Let's say it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago. What I think we don't remember as practitioners is 5 years from now, 10 years from now, a student could talk about you in a meeting and you will never have any clue. But your very small, meaningful, powerful, what you might think is insignificant day-to-day interaction with a student could change that person's life. It's so important to think about our own actions on a day-to-day basis. So again, really simple question, but this student had like a transformational moment in that engagement, in that encounter with that professor. And honestly, let's face it, do you think the professor really knew what he or she was doing by asking that question? Because we do say, how are you, to a lot of our students.
Very similar to that.
So let's talk about this one for a minute. This is focused. So with focus, the definition is that the student is staying on track. In other words, they're keeping their eyes on the prize. I love this definition because I do try to live out my own life like this, like keep your eyes on the prize, Diane, like, you know, keep going, stay focused. So I see myself in some of these research findings. How many of us in undergrad or graduate school were like checking off the boxes when we completed a class? Okay, it's different now. Yes, there are paper versions of degree auditing systems, absolutely. But we are moving, many colleges are now on an electronic system. This college in particular is on DegreeWorks. These students who are up all night long engaging in social media and all other sorts of activities can go online to look at their progress. And what this quote revealed to us is that there are some very simple methods on campus that serve as a motivator for students to put one foot in front of the other. Because, you know, we are all very taxed with students, right? Like, it's like we have a lot of work to do. And to have a deep and meaningful conversation about, and to try to motivate each and every single student is very hard for us because we have so many students. So if we can get support from these sort of electronic services that are out there that can serve as that motivator for a student, it's only supporting our work in the California community college system. Again, this was just a really revealing statement because we didn't have, you know, we weren't that certain that DegreeWorks was serving as such a motivator for college students. But again, this student wants to know what he or she has accomplished and wants to see it checked off and wants to see it online and wants to narrow his or her classes, right, to take and to transfer. Okay, let's talk about nurtured after you take a few seconds to read this. So a couple things about nurtured. Nurtured, our definition of nurtured is that somebody wants the student to succeed. Anybody, it doesn't matter who. Somebody on campus, an employee of the campus, it does not matter who. And what's really interesting about this is that when we talk at lunch about our 10 ways everyone can help students succeed, it's everyone. Everyone plays a role. But people don't recognize the role that they play. And so it's up to institutions to really drive that point home to their employees that everyone plays a role in student success. No matter what position you have on campus. And I'm so sorry, come on in, and there's chairs right up here, so feel free.
I agree with that. When the student comes onto the campus for the first time, they might see someone, the janitor, or they might see anyone in A&R or anyone in any department. If they're welcoming to the students, it makes such a difference in the students' life, our resource, anyone.
Absolutely.
Really could make a big difference in a student feeling comfortable deciding to stay there.
Well, okay, so Marcia raises an excellent point that was revealed in this research, and that is that everyone plays a role. Frontline staff play a very big role in student success. This student was an Iranian immigrant, came to the United States, landed at a community college, wanted to take ESL courses, didn't know how, didn't know where to go, wandered onto campus, walked by DSPS, and there is the frontline staff person seeing that this person looks lost, flags the person down, smiles, actually smiles, right? And so it's inviting. The student goes into the office, and that is when that frontline staff person, and this was not in his or her job description, decided to sit down with that student and help that student get enrolled. Hearing these stories is very powerful, very powerful. Yeah, did you?
I wanted to just add that this actually happened here at IVC.
Oh, what, is it at IVC? Okay.
From the IVC focus group
And
student.
we actually know who it was.
And as you can see, I don't know any of, I keep it all masked, yes.
Yeah, I just want to say the thing for us to remember, because I hear it over and over again, it's just one negative interaction can undo much of
That's
the
right.
positive.
That's
And
right.
it doesn't matter who that negative interaction was with.
That's absolutely right, and that is really important. And something else to note about nurtured, and there are definitely seats up here if any of you ladies want to, I don't want you to feel like you have to stand, is that nurturing is a catalyst for the other 5 factors. Once you're kind to someone and you show them that you actually care about them, you can help them get directed, you can help them get focused, you can help them feel valued, but it starts with like that basic human element of being kind, right? And showing someone that you care. So this factor is a catalyst for the other 5 factors. The other thing that we want to point out about nurtured is that we get some pushback from our readership about nurtured. That how can we replicate nurtured? That's mothering, that's babying, that's hand-holding. And what we say is, it's not that. We're not saying enable. We're not saying coddle. We're saying show someone you care. We're not saying lower the expectation. We're saying raise the expectation, because that is how you show someone you care, by raising the expectations. Students came into these focus groups and they said right away, they know when faculty members in their classrooms, their instructional faculty, lower the expectation for them when it comes to grading and writing, and they felt bad about that, right? I mean, who wouldn't? So again, nurturing is a really important factor for us. So connected is making students feel part of a larger community. And what's really interesting about this particular quote is that you can see how all the factors are interrelated. So you have a professor that fully engages you. There's a line in here about caring. They show that they really care. They're motivating. So you can see in these student statements, in these interview comments, how really all 6 factors play a role and are highly integrated. Another sort of interesting point about connected is that students oftentimes will have an attitude with, well, why should I be connected? I'm only here for 2 years. Well, interestingly, what they don't know is that the research shows us that they're here likely, if they are lucky, for 3 years. Probably 5 years. But if they're lucky and highly directed and motivated and probably linked into a major right away or do a certificate program, 3 years. So they're here for longer than what they are sort of psychologically grappling with. So it is important for them to feel connected because this is their home base in terms of their college campus. Another really interesting point about connected, and this happened in one of the focus groups that I was conducting, is that a student kind of fought back and said, why should I feel connected? Why should I, take pride when I don't see my faculty and staff doing that? and it really drove a message home to us that we have to show that we are connected, to model that for our students, that we can't help them get connected if they don't see that we are connected. We take pride in our college campuses, and we believe in our institution, right? And we value our presence in this institutional setting. So really sort of interesting layers with connected. So engaged is our definition, our understanding of engagement is when practitioners help students actively listen and participate in college activities, either in the classroom or outside the classroom. So it doesn't matter where they are on a college campus, they are active participants. They are taking an active role. So we do see connected and engaged absolutely as overlapping. A lot of it's overlapping, but we see connected as I feel a connection to this place, so I'm going to actively engage in my campus activities. With this particular quote, this student reached a very sort of transformational place in his or her learning, in that he or she knew it takes a lot more for me to learn in this classroom, for me to actually grapple with this material and understand it. It's both inside and outside the classroom, and it was very insightful, and we appreciated when students were really clear about what they needed on a college campus. One last point about engagement. One of the recommendations that came out from students, and we're going to also talk about that at lunch too, in terms of 10 ways everyone on campus can help, and these came directly from the students, is to be highly transparent about what you're doing. So when you engage students in class, and oftentimes, let's take instructional faculty as an example. We all have, I say we, I'm including myself, these incredible lesson plans where we are going to really, it's a slam dunk today. I'm going to connect with everyone. But we don't explain how, why, or what we're doing. So we're actually not connecting with everyone because they don't know what we are doing. So being highly transparent about why certain things are happening in the classroom helps students actually engage, because they feel like they're being treated as adults, which was said quite a few times in our focus groups, like why aren't we treated as adults? And it makes them feel part of that classroom community. So that is also part of engagement. Engaging students in their learning process, engaging them by telling them, being transparent about what is occurring in the classroom to deliver the curriculum. So with valued, the definition for us of valued is that we are acknowledging and respecting the skills, talents, abilities that students come to campus with. And again, it's acknowledging and respecting, and almost in a sense, leveraging those skills, talents, and abilities that students come to campus with. So a couple of things that came out when we talked about valued in our focus group sessions and in our telephone interviews. One thing, two sort of examples of how students feel valued. One of them is just by helping other students. Students feel good about themselves when they help other students on campus. And we see it happening as they mature and they progress in college, right? The first year student could be very lost. The second year student sort of has a better grip on what's happening. And those second and third year students who are in our focus group interviews acknowledge that I feel so good when I'm just walking down campus and I see someone and it looks like someone who's lost or who needs a little bit of direction, and I say, hey, dude, how's it going? Can I help you? They take great pride in their capacity to do that, and their maturity level. They take great pride in their maturity and sophistication to be able to have that kind of conversation and to offer up something, right? So they are highly valued for what they are offering. Another way that they felt really valued was in the classroom when instructional faculty asked for their opinions related to how the class was going, textbook selection, pedagogical design, classroom activities, I mean, you name it, it doesn't matter. You're just asking for their opinion. They took great pride in being able to supply an opinion to instructional faculty about the way the class was going. But not only that, they noted it's because faculty were genuinely interested in how they felt. We can't just ask the question for the sake of asking, tell me what you think about this textbook. It's because if you don't like it, I'm going to look at other options. You know, if you don't like it as a class, let's think of other options for the next class that I teach. They take great pride and feel valued for actually, again, providing an opinion, that one that's taken seriously to the faculty member. Okay, so, and we say, and this is, I don't even, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank about if this is embedded in the 10 ways, but I can tell you right now, it came out in the focus group interviews. Although it's not, you know, that convenient for us, giving a midterm evaluation of the class, that's just a personal one, is one way to execute getting feedback from students. So again, not the most convenient, but they did report that they really appreciate that. All right, so what does all this mean? We have 5 key themes here that I'll let you take a look at as we wrap it up. With number 1, in fostering student motivation, we like to think of it more broadly. How are our policies and practices fostering student motivation? And more specifically, and I think it goes back to a really key point over here, and I'm not sure of her name in the white shirt from, but what roadblocks are we setting up? Because the one roadblock could negate all of this positivity, right? So what roadblocks do we have in place that actually hinder student motivation? We want to get rid of those. Teaching students how to succeed, that you all raised that point when you talked about study skills, study habits. Again, what we might think is, okay, this is kind of simple, isn't simple for students. And they appreciate when they're taught how to be a college student. In terms of structuring support, again, structuring it so that all 6 factors can come alive on a college campus. And we're not saying all 6 need to be present in everything you do at all times. What we are saying, though, is that a student should move through the environment, hitting a factor, all 6 factors here and there. And then how do we, and we can talk a little bit more about this at lunch because of the time, I want to be conscientious of time, but how do we really understand the complexity of our underrepresented minority students who are, who might have different needs, certain expressed needs, one of which, and again, we can talk a little bit about this at lunch, but financial aid and feeling valued were ranked as like the top key players. And again, financial aid, right? And that's for all of, I mean, all of us in this room, I'm assuming a lot of us probably needed financial aid to get through college. I know I did. Financial aid, getting your classes, and feeling valued were 3 keys to success for Latino and African American learners. Really important, really important. And then again, number 5, making sure everybody knows this is your job on this campus. You play a significant role regardless of how you see yourself or your job description. It might not be in your job description, but you are a key player, and making faculty and staff feel valued for the role that they play. Okay. So really quickly, and we're going to talk a little bit more at noon. I love this slide. On the left, you have the idea that we all see organizational charts and students see people. Students do not see organizational charts. They see human beings. So that woman in DSPS, it wasn't in her job description to sit down with a potential ESL student. I mean, maybe it was. I'm assuming it wasn't. that student saw her as a human being, not as a DSPS worker. Really, really important. It does not matter who you are. You play such a huge role on this campus in helping students succeed. And that is what the student experiences. Okay. So wrapping it up, all of these resources are online on our RP group website. You can access any of them. I also emailed the presentation already to IVC, but we will definitely make sure everyone has it.
Where is, I'm on the website. Where is it? I'm looking right now.
Good
and I
question.
don't have a.
Good question. So
Diane,
go,
if you go to the Student Success Summit link that we
Okay.
sent out,
Oh,
or
great.
if you just, you got a QR code right here. If you
Okay.
just do that QR code, right on the main page at the bottom, we have all of the links to the handouts, to the presentations and everything. And we invite all of you back for lunch. We're going to continue with a hands-on activity for faculty and everyone on campus on how to actually put this into place, action steps to actually put this into place in your classrooms and in the offices here.
10 ways.
10 ways, that's right, that's 10 ways. So I want to say